Okay, I call the meeting to order. At this time, everybody stand for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge.
Let's pray. Father, I come before you this evening asking that you lead us in making the decisions that we need for Corinth to be what you have destined this great city to be. And I ask that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Citizens' comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Comments about any of the council agenda items are appreciated by the council and may be taken into consideration at this time or during that agenda item. Council is prohibited from acting on or discussing items brought before them at this time. They want to speak on the... No? Okay. All right. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Public hearing, item number 4. Conduct a public hearing to consider testimony and act on a rezoning request by the applicant Brandon Scheidwith to amend the zoning ordinance and the zoning map of the city of Corinth, each being a part of the Unified Development Code, from SF2 single-family residential to a planned development with a base zoning district of SF2 single-family residential for the development of 2 lots on approximately 2.188 acres of land located at 3408 Park Ridge Drive. Case number ZAPD 25-001, Honey Rock Hill. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, our senior planner, Miguel Inclán, will handle this item, answer any questions.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, Miguel Inclán, Senior Planner. This is a very simple planned development zoning for 2 single-family homes on the south side of the city at Park Ridge Drive. The property is currently zoned SF2. The request is to do a planned development with a base zoning of SF2 with a lone departure to the dimensional regulations for lot width. The site is bounded to the northwest and south by SF2 and zoning and large single-family lots, and to the east by the town of Hickory Creek. This is the proposed concept plan, which is essentially a draft replat that the applicant would be submitting to the Planning and Zoning Commission. This property was originally platted in the 1980s and then subsequently redrawn without an approved plat. So we have a landlocked parcel right here that the applicant is trying to redraw the line to ensure that there's access on Park Ridge Drive. The width at the Park Ridge Drive is required to be a minimum of 100 feet for any lot zoned SF2. Their current proposal has them at about 42 feet for each of the 2 lots that would be part of this replat. And the applicant is requesting that lone departure, so every other regulation applicable to the SF2 zoning district would remain except for that one. And then at that time, the applicant would submit a replat for approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The properties designated under the mixed residential land use strategy in our comp plan. No letters of support or opposition were received. We recommend approval as presented. The commission voted 3-0 to recommend approval as presented. If you have any questions, the applicant is here. They don't have a presentation, but I can answer any questions.
Are there any questions from council?
I should have been able to tell probably, but I couldn't tell. Are they sharing an access drive or are they splitting it?
They will be splitting it into two separate lots. They may have the opportunity to do a shared private access easement at their option. What this does when they do the replat, it allows each lot to have its own individual way of accessing from the street. So if they decide after replatting and at the time of construction that they want to do a shared driveway, they could do that at their option.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from council?
I would just encourage y'all to please do that. Because thank you. And I hope y'all continue to get along.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, I'll open it up for a public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this issue? If not, I'll close the public hearing, and I would entertain a motion on that item.
Mayor, I move to approve case number ZAPD 25-0001, Honey Rock Hill Plan Development, as presented, and direct staff to prepare an ordinance for adoption at a future meeting.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Item number 5, conduct a public hearing to consider testimony and act on rezoning request by the applicant Bridge Tower Homes, LLC, to amend the zoning ordinance and the zoning map of the City of Corinth, each being a part of the Unified Development Code under SF2 Single Family Residential to a planned development with a base zoning district of SF4 Single Family Residential for the development of 97 lots on approximately 17 acres located at 1960 Post Oak Drive. Case number ZAPD 24-0010, Saddlebrook Plan Development. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Melissa Daly, Planning and Zoning Director, address this item, answer any questions.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is a close to 17-acre site, and is proposed to be 97 lots with 30s and 45s. The base zoning district proposed is SF4, single family. This is a location, it's just below the hillside development that's about to get under construction now. Terrace Oaks is to the south. You have Ashford Park to the southeast, and the Antioch Church to the north and west. This is the surrounding zoning. It's primarily single-family PDs with SF4 base zoning. The current zoning on this property is SF2. It is, and I just wanted to show you some of the surrounding PDs. So this is the proposed plan for, and I'll get into this, but for the Saddlebrook development. This is the hillside development that is about to go under construction. To the right, you have Terrace Oaks, which has been zoned, but is not moving forward at the time on the build out of that. And then Terrace Oaks to the south, and you have the Ashford Park PD to the southeast. The comprehensive plan calls for this area to be neighborhood, and this is consistent with that designation. The comprehensive plan also indicates guiding principles. This is one that particularly applies to this development, that it be complete, connected, and safe neighborhoods, areas with convenient access to quality goods, services, and a wide variety of housing that meets the needs of all ages and abilities. This includes sidewalks, trails, green infrastructure, as street improvements that enhance the quality of life and experience of Corinth. So we really do, from a staff perspective, take that and work with the developer to enhance the development to accomplish those goals. The intended outcomes in the comprehensive plan, encouraging a master plan development, of course that's what this is, and allowing for a range of development opportunities, focusing on integrating design and character, and that's definitely something we've worked on over the past six or 7 months with the developer. ensuring a balanced and integrated approach to land use and infrastructure, streets, parks, and trails, and encouraging a range of housing types. This development has 2 housing types within it. And then the master thoroughfare plan identifies the future Creekside Drive extension to the east and Park Ridge extension to the north. So this development is here. So the construction of that Creekside Drive here is part of this development of this portion of Creekside Drive. So I just kind of want to walk through the process that we've gone through. This what you're looking at is not the current proposal. This is what was started. So you could kind of see the evolution over the last 6 or 7 months that we worked with the developer on. So this was the first in the pre-application where they started the first layout. So we recommended that at that point that they incorporate Texas Smartscape standards, add a landscape buffer between the alley and the open space, change the detention to retention on Post Oak here, provide a trail within the gas easement that connects to the existing Terrace Oaks Trail, which is here, provide street trees 30 feet on center throughout the development between the sidewalk and curb. And at that point, they hadn't done a landscape plan just yet. This was the pre-app. But incorporating additional tree preservation areas into the design. So we encouraged them to do a tree survey before they actually came back with another layout so that they could take into account, of course, the trees on the site and work with that. And this part of the development did not encompass the property to the east, so we asked them to perhaps look at that. And that if they did purchase that property or go into contract with that property, that they could better be able to preserve trees and create meaningful green space, particularly because of the challenging topography there. So that is something they did. And so you can see here, this is the area I was referring to where they extended the development to the east so that they could really look at the tree survey and do some meaningful tree preservation and also green space. There's a pretty significant topography right here in between, so this made sense to add in that green space and, of course, the tree preservation as well. So this was the first submittal. The staff asked that they add a trail and open space connection between the east and the west areas, so we asked that these areas be connected with some kind of a trail. That means losing a home or two to be able to create that connection through here. To provide an amenitized retention pond along Post Oak Road. So in this area, we asked that that be retention, which this did show to be retention, but that they amenitize it, installing street trees and constructing an 8-foot trail on the north side of Creekside Drive, so along here, an 8-foot trail, which would be a shared use path for bicycle and pedestrian. No parallel parking required on the north side of Creekside Drive, but there would be parking on the other side, as you can see here. And then we asked that 100% of the dwellings with have front porches of a minimum of 70 square feet, so that they're actually usable front porches. And that would be a more significant request than we've had of any other developer, where all of the homes have 70 square foot porches or greater, so that they're actually usable. So this was the result of that. Those recommendations, they incorporated all of those recommendations. You can see the retention pond on the front, which will be amenitized with a trail and benches and that sort of thing. The developer's here, and she can go over that in a little more detail. And then we asked that the detention be amenitized as well, similarly, and you can see the trails here. The connection was made. You can see the homes, they're not homes here anymore, so this trail can come through and connect that area. The street trees were added, as was a green buffer here, so there's anywhere from 15 to 30 foot green buffer here between Terrace Oaks and these homes. And these are, I should mention, these are 45s, homes on this side and on this side. Basically, all of the periphery are the 45s, and then the interior are the 30s, or to the north are the 30s. And then the trail was put through the gas easement here. All of the street trees were added. So this is, transition was something we wanted to make sure we looked at, providing proper transition to other neighborhoods. And so here's the development. You can see where the 45s are along this edge, and as well as on the eastern edge. There is about 90 foot of separation between the hillside and Saddlebrook lots. There's a 15-foot landscape buffer south of the hillside lots. There's a 60-foot right-of-way, and then another 15-foot buffer or green space in front of the 30s that will front Creekside rather than having a wall along that. And then there's 15 to 20-foot green space separation here. It gets larger as it goes eastward. And I'll talk about this in a second, but we actually were able to work out having that green space continue all the way down through here to enhance that connectivity to the detention pond and provide that separation there. And then there are, in the Terrace Oaks PD, that is designated to be 50s here with 40s as well. And of course, Ashford Park has 40s here. So this is kind of an indication of what we'd be looking at in terms of Creekside with the 2 lanes on-street parking, except in this case it'd be on-street parking only on the south side. You'd have a shared use path on the north side that we've talked about with trees on the curb edge. And so this is just kind of an overview of the whole development. 60 30-foot lots, 37 45-foot lots for a total of 97 lots. They have about 25% open space with 4.1 acres. And then the developer can talk about that, but there's 450 parking spaces. All of the homes will have 2-car garages with full two-car drives. These are the dimensional requirements. The main difference, of course, is the width of the lots. The depths will be similar to the SF4 base, if not larger, but these are 30s and 45-foot lots. So the unique elements of the project, they'll be preserving a minimum of 20.1 caliber inch of healthy protected trees, although the current plan shows 26.8. Of course, when you get into civil design, that can change, so we wanted to have a little bit of a buffer, but their goal is to keep it at the 26.8%, which is higher than almost every development except for Enclave that's passed in the past few years. 4.1 acres of open space included with a natural wooded grove lot and crushed granite trail, so that's about 25% of the gross acreage. 1.94 acres is actually required by the UDC, so it's about double that. There'll be a amenitized retention wet pond adjacent to the street with a fountain, and then the detention pond will be amenitized as well. There's 66 parallel on-street parking spaces provided in addition to the 2-car garage and driveway parking spaces. In the PD, it has a 16-foot maximum driveway width of the street. It'll fan out as it passes the sidewalk, but that's to minimize the amount of concrete for walkability, to enhance walkability. And then the 30-foot alley lots are alley serviced. So the homes, as I mentioned, would front Creekside rather than having a wall along the street. The developer is building the full east-west collector, which is Creekside Drive. Enhanced architectural elements with overhangs, cottage-style garage doors. And as I mentioned, 100% of the homes would have 70 square foot front porches, ornamental metal fencing adjacent to the open spaces, but there would be trees along that fencing. And then the extension of the trail from the Terrace Oaks neighborhood within the gas easement. When we had a work session with P&Z, they asked that the nature-based playground be incorporated, and so the developer added that. So they're intending to add that type of play equipment within the green space. And I mentioned the Texas Smartscape that they would incorporate for the front yards and all of the common areas. These are representative elevations for the 45-foot wide lots. You can see some of the architectural features, including the awnings over the garage, which I think help them blend well with the house. And then the lighting and here, other awnings on the remainder of the home and the 70-square-foot porches. And these are the representative images for the 30-foot wide lots. One of the things, I mentioned this earlier, that we were able to work out, there was a discussion with the fire department as to what was needed in terms of circulation. We were able to work out that this wasn't needed to be a cul-de-sac and that these could move up. That will allow this same green space to be extended through to the detention pond, and these homes could be moved up to provide at least a minimum of a 15-foot green buffer. This is a comparison just so you can see the open space in some of the neighborhoods that have gone through in the last several years. So this development exceeds most of those tree preservation and open space in other neighborhoods, with 24.5% in open space and 26.8% tree preservation. We've received 15 letters of opposition within the 200-foot boundary and 3 outside of the 200-foot boundary, which is 30.95% of those that responded. And then we've received 3 letters of support within the 200-foot boundary, 1 outside of the 200-foot boundary. That's 32.8% of those that responded. P&Z did deny the application at their February 17th meeting. That means that we would need a supermajority if this were to pass. The development is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It is consistent with the master thoroughfare plan to build Creekside Drive and put that through. The infrastructure and utilities are available, and Glenn is here and can speak to that if you have any specific questions about that, and sufficient for the development. Staff recommends approval with conditions that the cul-de-sac that I mentioned in the eastern section be removed, and that the 15-foot buffer be extended to the east, connecting to the detention pond trail. And then I added this in here. The developer will show you some options that include brick, some brick on the facades. So a possible condition, if the council prefers, that the brick accents per the representative images presented be required for all homes or some of the homes. So that's, just wanted to put that up there if that's something you want to consider. And the developer is here and has a presentation if you'd like, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from council?
Not yet.
Okay. Please state your name and your address for the records, please.
Our home address? I'm sorry?
Your office is fine.
5430. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. My name is Shaivali Desai. I'm Director of Entitlement with Bridge Tower Homes. We are located at 5430 Lyndon B. Johnson Freeway in Dallas.
If I may introduce myself.
Yes.
And I'm Bob Dithart, the Director of Development, and I obviously don't know our office address, so forgive me. And Shivali is our Entitlement Director. So we're going to turn over the presentation to her, and I'll be on standby to answer any additional questions. But we appreciate the opportunity to present our case to the board, to the council tonight. Thank you.
Good evening once again. So our project that we are presenting tonight, it's called Saddlebrook. Just wanted to show this vicinity map where green is our site, and surrounding our site are all these PDs. Similar to what we are trying to propose, Ashford Park and Oak Ridge Park had a similar PD with 30-foot and 50-foot lots. some of the project data that Melissa mentioned, we are providing 97 units, and we have net open space of about 4.1 acre, which is about 25% of the site, and the tree preservation area of 26.8%. Required parking is 2 parking spaces per home in the garage. We'll be providing all the homes with 2-car garages and full-depth driveway of 2-car. And in addition to that, we will be providing 66 parallel spaces on the road as well. So total parking provided is about 450 spaces. All these homes, among the 97 homes, they will be mix of 1 and 2 stories. Here's the conceptual plan that Melissa already discussed. Our goal for this site was to kind of honor the history that this site had, being used as horse ranch. It has a lot of natural tree grove. We wanted to preserve as many trees as we can, and kind of also suit the architectural style to that ranch farmhouse style. So here, as we can see, we have tried to develop the site with the trail connection, which is like throughout the site from any point in sight. All the trails are pretty much interconnected, and there is a great natural amenity of tree grove right in the middle of the project. And then we will have wet detention area with water fountain feature facing Post Oak. And then we have dry detention area on the east side, but which will also be amenitized with trail, site furnishing, benches along the trails as well. Just quickly wanted to go over some unique features and amenities that we are providing in this site, which kind of fulfills Envision 2040 goals. The need for ownership housing to support the growing population of Corinth. We are, as I had mentioned, we are providing approximately 4.1 acre of usable open green space with trail system throughout the site, which will promote really, healthy lifestyle, walkability. Kids can ride their bikes on those sidewalks and trails, and more than 26% of tree preservation area along with the natural playscape within it. The wet retention pond with the water feature, and we will have an overlook, like a seating area, which is overlooking that wet retention area, and as well as the dry detention area with the trail and the site furnishings around it. One of the major goals, as we had been discussing this with the city for more than 6 months, was Creekside, which is on the city's master thoroughfare plan, and that was, of course, that was one of the prime goals for the city to develop that Creekside Road. So we will be building the whole Creekside Road as part of this development to satisfy city's master thoroughfare plan requirement. And we are providing alley-loaded homes with front porches which will face Creekside. Again, front porches really, I think, enhances communication within the community. It provides safety within the community. So, yeah, that was one of our main goals as well for this site. And also providing a range of product types, from 30 feet to 45 feet wide lots, which caters to wider demographics who are at different stages in their life, ranging from young families to, who grew up in Corinth and would like to stay in Corinth, or the baby boomers who are empty nesters and they want to downsize but still would like ownership homes, with less yard maintenance. And also, as Melissa mentioned, we will be providing 100% of homes with at least minimum 70 square foot of porch, which will definitely increase interaction and security within the community. And the modern farmhouse style architecture that we are proposing, it honors the history of the site, which was once used as a horse ranch, and the design pays the tribute to its heritage. Here are some representative images for, trail through the grove, walking and biking trail, wet pond with water feature, benches throughout the site, sitting area overlooking the pond, and natural playscape as well. I wanted to go over some of the process and outreach we have done in last more than 6 months. We have been working with the city planning department for more than 6 months, and we have addressed, all of their comments. We have done a lot of neighborhood outreach as well, multiple meetings and conversation with Antioch Church, residents of Terrace Oaks, owner of Hillside at Corinth, and Dr. Hayslip, who is to the east of the project, including one formal meeting, in addition to a lot of other informal discussions. And few of the things that had come out of that meeting with neighborhood was the southern property edge. And that's where we felt that if we can provide the green buffer, which kind of gives that privacy to Terrace Oaks residents right here on their north side, and this green buffer is almost 15 to 30 feet. And as Melissa mentioned, we are going to continue that green buffer all the way along. This provides buffer as well as privacy to Terrace Oaks residents. Second comment that had come out of these meetings were Terrace Oaks residents had great concerns about drainage on their site. I think that current condition is such that they do have drainage issue. What we wanted to show was this diagram kind of shows the graphic of this is the existing condition from our site. First of all, our whole site is not draining to Terrace Oaks. It's about, as you can see, this red triangular area which drains towards Terrace Oaks. What we are actually proposing is what we are showing at the bottom. We are willing to grade our sites or our lots in such a way that our lots would drain towards our street, which will substantially reduce the drainage flow towards Terrace Oaks. I mean, I know by code we can never increase the flow from our site to any other site, but we are going to decrease the flow from our site to Terrace Oaks. And that's what this graphics is showing. We've had workshop session with the Planning and Zoning Commission as well as with council here, and the only comment we had received from P&Z was to provide a natural playscape for kids, and we are providing that. And in the council workshop session, of course, few questions were brought up, and we thought we'll provide kind of answer to that. One of the questions which was brought up was regarding the brick. And we looked at the architecture, and we are definitely willing to provide front facade with some of the brick accents, which kind of matches with the architectural style. Not doing the whole brick, but which matches with the farmhouse style. So these are some of the examples, kind of representative imagery for that. Second question which was brought up was, what if we were to develop this whole site as 45 feet lots? So we did study that, and this diagram shows that if we were to provide whole site with 45-foot lots, basically number of lots will be reducing by 13, so it is 84 lots. Open space is going to reduce from like 4.1 acre to about 2.5 acres. And tree preservation is going to be reduced from 26.8 to about 17%, which was basically that tree grove, which was right here. Also wanted to mention this site has little challenging topography, and hence the cost of infrastructure is pretty high. And the loss of these 13 lots will have a direct impact on our ability to fund the building of Creekside Road, which in our current proposal we are going to fund it completely. But if we were to do this change, we were hoping if the city will be able to participate in building that road. Also, another major change would be loss of landscape buffer, which is at the south side of Creekside. where the homes were going to, those 30-foot lots were going to front Creekside, but now if we put those 45-foot lots, essentially it will be building a screen wall along that side. Also, some people had questions on general the elevation styles of the building and how it is suitable for Corinth. So just wanted to show some examples of that architectural style in local context. This is a project, Retreat at Harvest by David Weekley in Argyle, with a similar style of architecture, 35-foot wide lots. This is Hometown in North Richland, 40-foot wide lots. This is project in McKinney, Painted Tree by Tri-Point, again 35-foot wide lots. This is Fields by Britton Homes in Frisco. These are 45 and 50-foot wide lots with the similar style architecture. And again, Retreat at Harvest by Tri-Point in Argyle. We are really hoping that we do get this opportunity. We'd really like to build partnerships with the city, and we are really looking forward to building safe neighborhood with real community spirit. So I'm here to answer any questions, but thank you so much for giving us this opportunity.
Are there any questions from council?
I have a couple. Do you mind going back to the slides with the drainage?
Sure. Oh.
Right there.
Thank you. So kind of what I wanted to make sure I understood, I think I've walked the property next to this property, and when you get about, 150, 200 feet in, it slopes dramatically off.
Yes.
Correct?
Right.
And I just want to kind of make sure I'm understanding this. On these drainage maps, you can kind of see the topography.
Right.
With the topography lines. And does each of those lines represent 10 or 20 feet?
This is 1 foot.
Well, the small lines are 1 foot?
Yes, small lines are 1 foot.
Okay. So is there a significant drop off there where you're kind of going to have the green area?
Correct.
Okay. So if I'm thinking about how this would be laid out properly, that'd be a place where you kind of just past the crest of the hill on a downslope where people could look out, and I think that has a view of downtown.
Correct.
Okay. So you'd be essentially in a place where you could build homes. You're creating a place where residents can sit there kind of like in a park-like atmosphere.
Yes.
And have a view of downtown and preserve the trees that are there on that natural slope.
Yes, and also those homes which are going to back onto the tree grove will have open, metal fence, and that's where, they are able to, that's a great amenity for them to be looking into the natural scape.
And that was kind of the other thing I was going to make sure I understood. Is there a requirement that the fencing in this neighborhood be open?
We are proposing different kinds of fencing. All of them are not open fencing. Like between the homes is not going to be open fencing, but wherever homes are backing on to either the green buffer area or the tree grove area, those will be open fencing.
Okay, so it won't. You're gonna have it. The fencing regulations such that it's not going to create like a box along the edge.
That's correct.
It'll be kind of an open concept.
Yes, we want to make use of the site as an amenity, right? So that's what our goal is.
Yeah, you want the people to come out of their
Yes.
backyards into the
Yes.
green area and use it like a park.
Yes.
Essentially, kind of moving the yards out into the
Extended
neighborhood.
out, yes. Visually, yes.
I just wanted to make sure I understood that
Sure.
correctly. I think that's a great plan.
Any other questions from council? No questions from council? Are there any questions?
May I summarize real quick?
Sure.
When you move from the 30-foot lots to the 45-foot lots, and by the way, thank you for coming up with that.
No
That
problem.
was excellent. So the net result is if we were to make this property almost identical to the neighboring property, which is the 45 to 50 foot, we would be losing 13 total homes.
Correct.
But we would also be losing half the green space, half the trees, and the taxpayers would need to be paying for the road.
Correct.
And estimates on that's 1.5 to
Yeah, it's about
million,
1.5 to 2 million is the cost of building Creekside.
Okay. Is there anything else that I missed in that summary from moving everything to 45-foot lots?
No.
Okay.
I thought you said that we would split the cost of Creekside.
Yeah, that's what I
It would
was.
be 1.2 to the taxpayers. It would be,
Yeah, the whole.
600.
Yeah, what we were expecting that at least we
So it'd
get
be
some.
600.
No, so what I'm saying, the total cost to build Creekside is 1.5 to 2 million dollars, and we were hoping if we can get participation from the city on it.
Okay. So 600,000 to $1 million.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Garber, if I may add, one of the other things that we think the entire 45 concept loses is a lot of the pedestrian interconnectivity between the open spaces and the
trails.
the view along Creekside. A wall with some landscape buffer as opposed to front of houses and whatnot, but the pedestrian interconnectivity and the use of that space
That-
a loss as well.
I think that's the piece that I was forgetting because
Yes,
you would
thank
put
you
up
so
a
much.
brick wall
Yes.
Creek side rather than the trees and the landscape.
Yes.
Any other questions, council?
So would you have to put up the brick wall because if you went to 45, you're going to have to turn the houses a different way? Or?
Yes, because our we cannot have a front-loaded home on Creekside because it's a collector road. It is not allowed to have a garages on collector road or the driveway, so home will be turned other way, and that will be the backyard, so as to say.
If I could clarify, it's because people would be backing out onto Creekside from each individual driveway.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. Okay. At this time, I'm going to open it up for a public hearing. And I believe we have a couple of people here who would like to speak. Paige Allman.
Would it be okay for me to go at the end?
Pardon?
May I go at the end? Can I be last?
Oh, okay. John, is it Walberka? Right? Walberka? Please state your name and your address for the records, please.
Sure. Joni Waverka, and I own what I call the back six, which would be that hill and where the land goes in the detention pond. That's what I own right now. I live in Hickory Creek, though. So I'm always concerned about what's being developed in the area, and I think the city of Corinth has done a really nice job with Ashford, and my daughter actually lives in Terrace Oaks, and her house would be a property that backs up to the detention pond. So I have kind of a vested interest also from a couple different ways as far as what's being built on that property and what's being presented by having, whether it goes all 30 and 45 or the 45, I think would be acceptable. And the final project would turn out to be nice, especially if there's a lot of green space in there. That I know from Tuesday's meeting there was a lot of concern about the drainage and then also the cottage, the farm style cottage, and that is kind of like a newer style, and that is being built in a lot of 1 million plus homes. So I actually like that type of building, but having an opportunity, homes are getting so expensive today. I don't know how young families can really afford to have homes, and it is nice that we live in an area that is conducive to a broad range of, beginner homes, families that don't want to or I'm getting to the point where I don't want to maintain my yard at all anymore. Little patio home sounds nice to me. But, and so it appeals to a broad range of people. That's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Paige Allman. What? Well,
Would I like to use it for reference, please?
please state your name and your address for the record, please, and you got 3 minutes.
My name is Carl Malkowitz. I live at 2123 DeMarsh Lane. I am the furthest house to the east and known as Block 1, Lot 15. I'd like to talk a little bit about the proposal here. The proposed density at 97 homes for the 17 acres is 5.7. And even with the new proposal with 84, that drops it on a 5. So it's kind of like more dense than Hillside, which is under construction, which is 3.4, and also Terrace Oaks, which is 3.4. Let's talk about stormwater. I want to tell you, I don't understand what was said about 1 foot. The very center of the property that's considered being redeveloped right now, elevation is 671 feet. At the property line of my block 15 on DeMarsh, it drops to 647. That's over 20 feet drop. And the water comes down. You saw the way that water comes off that property. It's unbelievable. Stormwater basically drains south and east. Okay, with the high density, we're very concerned, and I'm very concerned about the value of our property. It'll diminish, and having no bricks on the homes is not consistent with the other neighborhoods that surround this one. It does not meet, the proposal does not meet the quality and the characteristics of existing neighborhoods. Water pressure is also a problem in our neighborhood. So we have very low water pressure, excuse me, and following what's going on with water pressure and expansion, we're talking about 2028 before another tower is being put in here to increase the water pressure. So it's just going to diminish. We have problems watering our lawn already. I think that's going to cover it right now, but I am against this, and everybody that was here at the Planning Board and Zoning meeting representing Terrace Oaks was against this also, and you should have the comments if you want to look at individual comments from all those people. They were included in the original presentation. But I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Paige Allman, please state your name and your address for the record, please, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Paige Allman at 1960 Post Oak. Good evening, my name is Paige Allman. My sister Heather Bacon and I are the property owners of approximately 10 acres in the front of 1960 Post Oak Drive. The property was our home, along with a horse farm, for approximately 49 years. Late in our father's retirement years, he founded Spirit Horse Therapeutic Riding Center, which helped children with disabilities as well as adults. Sadly, our father passed away 3 years ago. Corinth has always been the town where we grew up and enjoyed living life in the country. The city had a small-town country feel. Bridge Tower's plan for building homes with the farmhouse aesthetic keeps with that country feel. The area where the green space will be located for families and to walk on trails and enjoy nature is the same spot we did as children. As we began the process of selling our property, which holds a special place in our hearts, we considered many potential buyers or developers, as we knew we wanted our land's legacy to represent our family's values. Bridge Tower's plan for a family-oriented community, keeping beautiful areas we treasured in green spaces, is a plan we would be proud to see on our beloved land, and know many families would treasure it for years to come. And the name Saddlebrook, it's meaningful to us. Our father was an excellent horseman, and he would be especially proud of the name and the proposed plan if he was here with us today. The request to rezone to SF4 is a request for the same zoning as SF4 Terrace Oaks neighborhood on the south border of our property, as well as the SF4 Hillside neighborhood, the bordering section that borders our property. In addition, Bridge Tower has generously offered to pay the entire cost of the road that borders north of our property, which will save the taxpayers a significant amount of money. We are excited about this plan as we believe it welcomes families of different stages of life, not just those who match our neighbors. Our hope is that the citizens of Corinth will open their hearts to welcome them as part of the community. Thank you for allowing me to speak today in support of rezoning 1960 Post Oak to SF4.
Thank you. Do we have any others? Madam Secretary? Okay. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak to this issue? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing and entertain a motion on this item. Again,
I've got two quick questions, if that's okay for staff. One for the developer and one for staff. The question for staff with water pressure. Yeah, and maybe you too, ma'am. So between the development between Province and this, and I've asked this probably 5 times, these two developments are not going to affect water pressure.
No, it will not affect water pressure. There's enough volume there and pressures at 60 psi at the curbs.
Okay, and so 60 psi's at the curbs. These two new developments will not drop pressures below that mark. And volume is more than enough, at least until your plans show we need a new water tower whenever that happens to be.
2 things. One is we did a third-party evaluation. Water and sewer has adequate flow, pressure, everything in the area. Second is an elevated tower is not going to increase pressure significantly. It'll increase 2-3 psi, but it's going to be the exact same elevation as the current one, and the height psi is going to be the same coming out of that tank.
Okay, so in the two neighborhoods where there are potential water pressure issues, it is not to do with the water mains.
No, on Monday we did a study with Juanita's house, and she actually had a PRV, and she opened hers up and she gained 20 psi, so she went from 30 psi to 50. And
wonderful.
The engineering target is 53 to 58.
Okay. Maybe you and I can touch base after this meeting. That's good information to know. For the developer, as reading through a few of the comments that folks have had, property values, what do you expect the range for the 30s all the way up through the 45s to ultimately sell for?
I think our range, we were looking from, I think, upper 400s to 600s.
Okay. So upper 400s, maybe 5, up through about 600.
Right. Similar to kind of Ashford Park or...
Ashford Park, and at least according to Realtor, almost exactly what Valencia is now. They're about 500 to about
Right.
615.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question as well. And I've never really asked this or done this, so I don't really know how to do it. But you talked about the brick.
Yes.
And talked about if we could stipulate how much brick or how many homes part of the PD or whatever.
Yeah.
Would 30% of the homes with a brick skirt or some type of brick accent, would that be acceptable?
Yes, that would be acceptable.
Okay. And everybody here knows that tree preservation is where my heart sits. So you saving that grove of trees is extremely important to me and I think I explained to you in the workshop that this property itself, while it doesn't hold the same place in my heart as it does maybe to Paige that was raised there, I've spent a lot of time in that property volunteering with Spirit Horse. I was very active with Mr. Fletcher in that therapeutic riding center. So saving those trees and kind of the specialness that kind of happened under those trees all those years is really important to me. I am concerned about the density of the 30-foot lots, but I think your plan is really nice. I think it's beautiful. And I think the preservation of that green space is just going to add to the aesthetics of that. But if we could add the 30% of the homes would have some type of a brick accent on it,
sure,
part of the PD, that would probably satisfy me a little bit too.
I think also if you were to make a motion for approval with that stipulation and it gets seconded, we would vote on that.
I just didn't know how to put it in part of the,
I think the way you said it, if staff and the developer's okay with that.
If that helps.
Do what?
You want me to bring the slide?
If I may add, I believe that you are specifically referring to the front elevation having a minimum of 30% brick.
No,
30%
not necessarily. On 30% of the homes have a brick accent
on the front
on them, because some people may not want it. They may want that strict farmhouse feel. In Harvest, some of them have a brick, maybe the gable above the fireplace around, not fireplace, garage.
The garage, yes.
Is just that portion is brick. Or some of them have a skirt, around.
Right.
I think one of your illustrations had
the skirt. Yes.
Just something to kind of marry what's around it.
Sure. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions, comments?
So this is, and there was another condition that y'all could consider, which is to extend that green space along to the east, you know, to eliminate that cul-de-sac. So I just pulled that up. That might help you.
Okay.
And why are we doing that again? I thought the cul-de-sac was pretty. Why do we want to square it off?
I think the idea was to connect the green space to the detention area trail.
Oh, I got it.
As well as provide that buffer for those homes.
It came back.
All right. I'd entertain a motion on this item.
Our PowerPoint just went away that had those two conditions on it.
That slide back up there.
Sorry, Kelly. Okay. I was just making sure you... There we go.
I move to approve case number ZAPD 24-0010, Saddlebrook Plan Development as presented, with the alternative, with the stipulations that 30% of the homes will have a brick accent and that we will have a 15-foot buffer extension. And to the east, and direct staff to prepare an ordinance for adoption at a future meeting. And that makes sense.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Cast your vote. It passes. Supermajority is 4. Item number 6, conduct a public hearing to consider testimony and act on the city initiative requested to amend Unified Development Code UDC subsection 3.05.16 drainage and stormwater to add a requirement for drainage basins to be designed as retention ponds when located between a building and a street and are completely bound by streets and are viewable from a public space. Case number ZTA 25-003. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight you're going to hear from one of our city planners, Deep Najjar. I'm sorry, Deep. I knew I would do that. Who'll present this item, answer any questions that you have.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Tonight we will be talking about an amendment to the UDC subsection for drainage and stormwater. So the UDC and the city's engineering standards manual currently permit the construction of detention, that's the dry pond on your left, and or retention, that's the wet pond, drainage basins in new developments within the city of Corinth. While staff has worked closely with developers over the past few years to enhance the appearance and usability of detention ponds, for example, we have a detention pond in Ashford Park Phase 1. Staff feels retention ponds provide greater aesthetic appeal and improve the city's environmental health. Like we have a retention pond in Ashford Park Phase 2. So some of the benefits of retention ponds include creating visually appealing water features with subdivisions and enhancing water and environmental quality of a neighborhood. It also attracts wildlife and offers opportunity for recreational activities like walking trails around the pond perimeter, thus improving the overall quality of cityscape and community spaces. And that's a picture we might, like staff is looking for to end up with the proposed amendment. And we have a text that mentions that the drainage facility is located between a building and a street or completely bounded by streets, viewable from a public space, shall be designed as retention ponds, and any conflicting adopted regulations shall supersede by this provision. And staff recommends approval of the request as presented, and the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 2-3-0 to recommend approval as presented. That's all.
Are there any questions from council?
Hey, Deep, I have a question. On what we just approved, did we just approve a dry detention pond at the front of this one?
That one has a dry detention and wet. So wet is right in front of the street.
So on Post Oak is where the wet will be?
Yes.
And I saw the dry one is at the back of the...
That's what exactly the amendment means, and we are proposing that.
Great. That's what I thought. I just want to make sure that was a wet on Post Oak.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions from council? Thank you very much, and I'd entertain a motion on this item. Wait, I got to go to a public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak to this issue? If not, I close the public hearing, and I entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to approve case number ZTA 250003 as presented and direct staff to prepare an ordinance for adoption at a future meeting.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Item number 7, conduct a public hearing to consider testimony and act on the city initiated request to amend Unified Development Code subsection 3.05.19C pedestrian lighting to add a new spacing maximum and amend the existing lighting standards. Case number ZTA 25-002. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, Matthew Lilly with our Planning Department, one of our city planners, cover this item, answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. As Scott mentioned, we're looking at amending the UDC on some of the street lighting standards. So just the purpose of this one is to further define the spacing, location, and design requirements for street lighting around the city. And then a summary of the proposed changes are to reduce the maximum spacing of street lighting from 600 feet to 250 feet, to require that street lighting not exceed 15 feet in height to make them more pedestrian oriented, and then to require pedestrian light fixtures be installed at each corner of an intersection. And then these next two slides basically break down that language. In the red is where things are being added, and then we have text that's being crossed out where it's being removed. And so that first one is just defining what street lighting means. Getting into that pedestrian light fixture is basically an interchangeable term. That third bullet is talking about not exceeding the 15 feet in height. Here on number 4, It gets into that spacing requirement of 250 feet and giving the director some discretion to go below that in particular instances. And then number 6 is just requiring that the lighting be included in the civil engineering construction plans and that be reviewed at that time. And so we are recommending approval as presented. P&Z voted 3-0 to recommend approval as presented, and there's the proposed motion, and I'm available for any questions you might have.
Are there any questions from council?
I do have a question, and I may have missed it. So the existing lights that are up, will those all be changed to 15 feet, or will those just stay? And if it's more than 250 feet, will we be adding in between those?
So those would be considered as existing non-conforming, so there's no plans for us to go in at this time to change those out, but that could certainly come up in the future if it was desired by the city to do that.
This would apply to new developments.
If one has to be replaced, will it then abide by this standard, or would it be grandfathered in to stay? How?
I would think we'd want to be consistent
Yeah.
with what's there and not put in some new standard.
Like where it's.
I love this. I'd love to see it over the whole city, maybe over time.
Is there any requirements as far as what the strength of the light is out there?
So we don't have any requirements for lighting within the public right-of-way in terms of like luminary and the measurement of it. I know we do for like commercial and single-family houses where you can't exceed a certain light amount at the property line, but there's nothing in the code stipulating.
In the code, we're a dark city, so no light can go up. That's the only thing that's in the code right now. So we can't. All the light has to shine down. It can't shine into people's houses. Encore has special bulbs for those. And if you do complain about that, they'll come out and spray paint the back end and everything for you.
No, it's serious. My parents' neighbor has the back of theirs spray painted. Yeah,
Oh.
it's ugly.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions on council? Okay, at this time I open it up for public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak to this issue? Not? I close public hearing. Entertain a motion on that item.
Mayor, I move to approve case number ZTA 25-0002 as presented and direct staff to prepare an ordinance for adoption at a future meeting.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Item number 8, conduct a public hearing, consider testimony, and act on the city initiated request to amend Unified Development Code subsection 2.06.02M, architectural standards, and 2.06.02N, tree preservation and landscaping, case number ZTA 25-001. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Miguel Inclán will handle this item as well. Answer any questions.
Honorable Mayor, Council, once again, Miguel Inclán for the record. This is a slight amendment to the fenestration requirements and tree preservation requirements for MXC zoning district. This is broken into two separate categories. So the amendment to the architectural standards is for the fenestration, which is basically the arrangement of the openings in the building's facade. When the MXC was recently updated, the requirement was 60% minimum fenestration at all facades on streets and public spaces, and it didn't make a distinction whether the use of that ground level in that space was commercial or residential. So the intent of the fenestration was to enhance the commercial spaces by adding that opening, just like you see in this example. So the proposal is to require that fenestration design only in commercial spaces on ground levels. In the next slide, you will see an example from the Miller development in Austin, and you can see on one side of this mixed-use building, You have your fenestration and openings for the commercial side of the building, while on the left side over here along the side street where all the residential units are, you see that there's a different design and level of opening. This is another example from a newish building in San Antonio downtown. So on the right-hand side of this same building, you can see that this is the design for the retail space, while as you move towards the residential units that are fronting the street, you see that there is a clear and distinguishing architectural style. So we just want to make sure that the spaces are thoughtfully designed. So it is a very simple change. We're just adding the word ground floor commercial to ensure that the fenestration is only required in commercial spaces. So the second, do you have any questions on the fenestration? Okay. The second half of this request is regards tree preservation. So the current MXC code as written defines protected trees as those greater than 20 caliper inches. So versus 6 in the tree preservation ordinance. So right now, any tree below 20 caliper inches does not count against you when removing it for development. But right now, there is no clear answer as to if you save trees smaller than that, will they count for you in the preservation percentage? So the proposed change will clarify that those trees won't count against you, but they'll count for you if you save them. So we're amending the section of the code to clarify that all the other provisions will apply, including the credits on the tree preservation ordinance. Any questions on that?
Is there any questions from council? No.
Staff, we recommend approval as presented. The commission voted unanimously to recommend approval as presented, and you have your proposed motion.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'll open it up for public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this? Not? I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
May I move to approve case number ZTA 25-0001 as presented and direct staff to prepare an ordinance for an adoption at a future meeting.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Business agenda. Consider an act on approving a tree removal permit for the Oxford at the Boulevard Phase 2 development project located at the northwest corner of Lake Sharon Drive and Corinth Parkway. Case number 2025-005, Oxford at the Boulevard Phase 2. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We're going to hear from Miguel Inclán one more time. Answer any questions.
Mayor and Council, so this is a tree permit application. So this is not an alternative compliance request, so no waiver is being requested. That's right off the bat. This is for an approximately just under 5 acre site at the northwest corner of Lake Sharon Drive and Corinth Parkway. It is the Phase 2 expansion of the current Oxford at the Boulevard Apartments. What you see here in the aerial is infrastructure that was installed around 2004 for the Corinthian Park townhome development, so that PD was repealed when and subsumed into the Oxford Plan Development 31. The proposed site plan shows 172 multifamily units in this Phase 2. Here are the results from the tree survey. So there are 6 protected trees totaling 50 caliper inches. They're outlined here in red. The applicant designed their building and the trail on Lake Sharon Drive around the 16 caliper inch unprotected cottonwood tree. And I'll share a little bit more detail on that in the next slide. So because the percentage of protected trees being preserved is 0, that triggers council approval for this tree permit. The applicant will mitigate the 50 caliper inches that are required for as part of this permit. Should I pause? Or okay. In this slide right here, you can see how the applicant designed their building. They actually did a little recess in their building and designed a 10-foot trail that's required as part of the comp plan around the cottonwood tree. So the applicant took great lengths to design their site around trees as best as possible. I must note that the existing trees that are being removed just popped up over time. Sometime between 2009 and now, those trees basically just sprouted up. So they weren't planted as part of any required landscaping or anything like that. And most of them are Bradford pears. There's only one ash, but Bradford pears are considered protected. The mitigation proposal is for the applicant to plant 17 trees to satisfy the full mitigation. The trees will be planted on both sides of that new 10-foot trail along Lake Sharon on the Phase 1 portion of the development. So here, this is a planting plan for the whole Phase 2, which includes required landscaping. And the trees here in blue on this side over here adjacent to Phase 1 are the replacement mitigation trees that are being planted. So the applicant is essentially just fulfilling the ordinance as written. However, the preservation percentage is what brings them before you tonight. We recommend approval as presented. I have questions. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer. And the applicant's landscape architect is here as well if you have questions for their team.
Is there any questions from council? Thank you very much.
Everybody looks at me. I just want to say that I live right there, and those are terrible trees. They're like bushes, and they're not healthy, and I didn't even think they were Bradford pears. They look so bad, so I'm good with it.
Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I would move to approve pre-permit number Tree 2025-0005 Oxford at the Boulevard Phase 2 as presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Council comment and future agenda items. The purpose of this section is to allow each council member the opportunity to provide general updates and or comments to fellow council members, the public, and or staff on any issues or future events. Also, in accordance with Section 30.085 of the Code of Ordinances, at this time, any council member may direct that an item be added as a business item to any future agenda. Mr. Burke.
Mayor, I'd just like to thank the staff for their hard work. I know that they get a lot of pushback on density and a lot of criticism sometimes for that, but I suspect that it was y'all's work that made for the thoughtful development of Saddlebrook more than the developer's kind-hearted intentions. So I appreciate that, and I think the community is benefiting from it, and I want you to know I appreciate it. I'm sure you have a lot of people telling you they do not. So,
Mr. Garber.
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Rao.
I just wanted to say I got to hang out with the police this week, and that was real, or maybe last week. I don't know. That was last week, and it was really fun. I had a great time. I met some new friends, and so I just am really proud of the police that we have here, especially with as many that I get to work with on a daily basis. We've really got a good team. So, and yes, also thanks to the staff. I echo what Sam said.
Ms. Henderson.
Nothing.
Ms. Pickens.
I have nothing. Thanks, Mayor.
Mr. Campbell.
Shamrock and Roll, March 15th, 3 o'clock to 9 p.m. I thought you would ask me, so I had it pulled up. So there you go. It's on the website, too. So.
You sounded just like a rock star.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, come listen.
Are you dancing? Okay. All right. Now we're going to have to go into executive session, and we're going to have to work on Section 551087. So we're going into executive session at 7:51.